Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are happy to bring to you the 17th webinar of Energy Evaluation Asia Pacific, where we discuss the design, implementation, and evaluation of energy efficiency policies for buildings in the Asia Pacific region. My name is Nazir. I'm your host for today's webinar and a coordinator with Energy Evaluation Asia Pacific, which is a vibrant community of energy and evaluation professionals across the Asia Pacific region. Before going to the webinar, I would like to inform you all that this webinar is being recorded. I would also like to welcome you all to introduce yourself in the chat, sharing your name, organization you are presenting, and the country where you are joining us from. And also a fun question, if you could design a famous building to be energy efficient, which one it would be? While you're doing that, I would like to share some housekeeping rules with you. As I shared, this session is being recorded, and by attending and participating, we assume that you give us your consent for this to happen. But if you have any concern, please feel free to reach out to us. Please keep your microphones muted when you're not speaking, but you can switch on your cameras for better engagement. You can use the chat box for questions, comments, feedback. The speakers will respond to the questions at the end, or they may also respond directly in the chat. We will be sharing with you a brief feedback form at the end of the session, so we would be really happy to get your feedback and suggestions. We will be sharing a recording of the webinar along with the summary notes with you through our website, social media pages, and as well as the recording will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. And we will also be sharing with you the slides and summary of the discussions through email and also through our website. So the agenda of the webinar looks like this. We will start with welcome remarks and background of the topic from Edward Wine, who is our steering committee member. Then we will have presentations from our three distinguished speakers. It would be around 45 minutes. Then we will have around 15 to 20 minutes of discussion and Q&A session. And then we will wrap up the session in around 12:15 Bangkok time. So without further ado, let me invite Edward Wine for the welcome remarks and background of the topics. Ed, over to you.
Hi. Thank you very much, Nazir. I'm going to try as best as I can, keep it short, because this is a lengthier webinar than we usually have. Often we have two people, and now we have three presenters, so we'll go a little beyond an hour, be an hour and 15 minutes or so. But first, I wanted to talk over a few slides. First, about who or what is EEAP, Energy Evaluation Asia Pacific. We are a not-for-profit. It was established 2018, so now it's 7 years. And it's modeled after a similar organization in the US, i.e. PEC, and the one we established in Europe, i.e. PPEC, now called Energy Evaluation Europe, and that's been going on since 2010, so 15 years there. And we try as a community to support the evaluation of energy policy and programs in the Asia Pacific region. And all countries are included in that. And our mission is to take a leadership role in expanding the practice of and capacity for what we call objective evaluation of both energy efficiency and renewable energy programs and policies. And we do that by bringing people together at different activities and trying to foster this network of both practitioners and stakeholders or policymakers. We have a database of resources on our website on the best practices that are being used. We want to develop that more. We also hold webinars like this and international events. And as you'll see in a few minutes, we're planning a conference later this year. And this is the website. You can learn more about our organization. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. So I wanted to alert people to this activity called Eval Torch. And it's a symbol, the torch, as you can see, in a call to action, uniting the evaluation community to build a future where evaluation contributes to a more just and sustainable world. And it started in the International Year of Evaluation 2015 and has been used in many events, over 70 countries and 92 events. And it's been reignited. So EEAP, Energy Evaluation Asia Pacific, is hosting this webinar as part of that. And we'll be doing more work during the year on this. So it's a lot of organizations all over the world, not just Asia Pacific, are using this and really trying to make people aware of and hopefully promote the use of evaluation to address the challenges and opportunities we're facing. So as I mentioned, hopefully later this year we'll have a conference and we'll make sure everyone on this call will be aware of that. We have other webinars we're planning and you'll again hear about that. And then for every webinar we have, there's a feedback forum and this is the link and Nazir will come back to this. So for today, what I really like about this webinar is we're focusing on one of the critical aspects for reducing emissions as well as reducing energy use. They go hand in hand, and focusing on the building sector. And all three presenters will talk about this. So before I go to this, I'm going to stop screen sharing, just say a few words right now about Kimberly, if I can get my notes. And here we go. So Kimberly is an economic affairs officer with the Energy Division at the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, ESCAP. And she supports regional and national efforts toward the achievement of Sustainable Development Goal 7, SDG 7, and the Paris Agreement. And she's been working with ESCAP and sustainable energy for more than 12 years and leads multiple initiatives supporting the development of policy frameworks and encouraging best practices for reducing cooling-related energy demand and greenhouse gas emissions in the built environment. Prior to this, she worked in the private sector for an architecture engineering firm and a bioenergy venture. So without further ado, I'm going to hand this off to Kimberly. She'll start sharing her slides and she'll have about 15 minutes. So Kimberly, please start.
Great. Thank you so much, Ed. It's really great to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity. Again, I'm coming from the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, and today I will be speaking from the perspective of building energy efficiency policy and practice in the region. Thank you, Nazir, for helping me with my slides today. Next, please. So first, I would like to introduce you to ESCAP, which is the most inclusive intergovernmental platform in the Asia-Pacific region. The Commission promotes cooperation among its 53 member states and 9 associate members, which you can see listed here, in pursuit of solutions to sustainable development challenges. ESCAP is one of the 5 regional commissions of the United Nations, and as you can see, it's also the largest region in terms of population, energy demand, and emissions. Next, please. So when it comes to the building sector, like all sectors, the ESCAP Secretariat works to bring member states together to foster regional cooperation and knowledge exchange of best practices. We offer research and analysis on key trends, and we work with countries to provide technical assistance. We also track and evaluate progress against targets and objectives that have been set under national, regional, and international commitments. And in particular to the building sector, in collaboration with partners such as UNEP, who I'm happy to have joining with me today, to develop national cooling action plans, which prioritize passive design as a first measure to reduce cooling loads in buildings. And we are also working together with partners to provide inputs to building codes to improve energy efficiency. Next, please. So why do we need to talk about the building sector? As you can see, approximately 1/3 of energy is consumed within buildings. And as you all probably very well know, the Asia-Pacific region is a rapidly growing and urbanizing region, which is also impacted by rising temperatures, which are driving growing energy demand. In particular, we're seeing the demand for space cooling driving rising electricity consumption. However, most buildings across the region are designed and built with little consideration for energy efficiency, and with a handful of exceptions across Asia-Pacific countries, building regulations really lack comprehensive coverage, high energy efficiency performance requirements, or frameworks for eventually meeting net zero. So without improving the design and construction of buildings, energy consumption and emissions will, of course, continue to increase. And therefore, this really places the building sector in a critical position where progress in energy efficiency can support achievement of the world's highest level sustainable development objectives, including the SDGs, the Paris Agreement, as well as the net zero targets. Next, please. So the policy tools that many of you are probably very familiar with include energy codes and standards, as well as guidelines for the design, construction, and performance of a building and its components. Ratings and labeling systems can be introduced in both voluntary and mandatory manners to inform buyers, occupants about the energy performance of a building. They can also be used as a requirement to meet under building sector regulations. MEPs may apply to appliances and systems within the building. Passive cooling integrated into urban planning and design is a really interesting tool. Depending on the climate, urban form, which can be designed and planned to take advantage of natural wind directions, introduce greenery, or minimize solar exposure, for example, can reduce energy demand in buildings between 10 and 30%. So a really interesting area where we're working with partners to look more closely. Financial and non-financial incentives are critical, particularly in countries where building energy efficiency is in its nascent stages of development. We're probably familiar with some of the financial incentives, but some of the non-financial incentives could include, for example, additional floor space allowances or accelerated permitting processes for high-performance buildings. And lastly, public procurement of energy efficient appliances, components, and materials can help lower costs and increase uptake within the market, particularly in early stages. Next, please. So in the Asia-Pacific region, some of the key barriers that we see for the development of policy frameworks that can really deliver an energy efficient building sector include, firstly, limited capacity amongst policymakers and practitioners. In the areas where we work, we are delivering trainings, for example, on fundamentals of building physics, because this knowledge base is just being built in many contexts. At the same time, we see government entities with limiting staffing and expertise, and so therefore limited capacity to really design robust policies. Data is probably the largest barrier that we see because many countries have very little data on building performance, even to establish baseline performance levels. And therefore, they remain limited in their ability to model the potential impacts in terms of energy and emissions savings with new regulations, for example. And this means without that data, that the potential benefits of improved regulation remain hidden to those policymakers. Of course, financing is another barrier. Real estate developers must deliver a profitable product, and if there's additional costs associated with energy efficiency measures, design, the materials or components, but a lack of market that's willing to pay for that, then little incentive really exists to strive for delivering higher performance buildings. And of course, enforcement of regulations is lax in many contexts. Next, please. So some of the implementation pathways that we see that are particularly important include, first of all, awareness. This is really important as policymakers, practitioners, building occupants, home buyers, etc. They must be able to value energy efficiency for the benefits that it delivers, whether it's be achievement of national greenhouse gas emission target reductions or lower energy bills in the home. There must be demand for building energy efficiency. Institutional capacity needs to be improved in order to develop and enforce regulations that are appropriate for the local context. You can't just copy and paste from one context to another. These regulations really need to be tailored to the local context. A long-term perspective on building energy codes is important in order to continuously increase the ambition of the regulations toward the eventual net zero targets. And of course, a key component of these roadmaps for building energy codes includes MRV frameworks. Piloting and demonstrating various methods or approaches, design approaches, materials can help raise awareness while also providing data and evidence that can feed into strengthening regulations. Of course, finance mechanisms are important, and lastly, engagement amongst stakeholders, because there are many players that contribute to the realization of energy efficient buildings across private sector, academia, construction industry, as well as government. Next, please. So when we think about evaluating building sector policies, we need to start with performance baselines. And what we've seen in some contexts where we're working is that those don't actually exist. And so there's a real need for energy audits and benchmarking of buildings across different typologies according to their usage, differentiated by climate zones, etc. So really understanding that the existing built environment is critical. And then you can get into some modeling of that building stock and begin to understand what the potential impacts are of various regulatory interventions. Another key component, maybe Tian might touch on this, is survey evidence on user behavior and comfort, understanding your market and for the private sector, understanding user behavior, understanding, it is possible a building performs really well, but is very uncomfortable to actually live or work in. And I think back to the 1970s in the US, where there was a big push during the oil crisis to make buildings energy efficient. And so all the windows were shrunk. And there was no daylight in those buildings anymore. So not very comfortable buildings or productive spaces to be in. Second is assessing the policy and regulatory frameworks. So looking at, the scope and coverage of those regulations. Is it just being applied to the commercial sector? Or are the regulations being applied to the residential sector? Do they apply to only new or also existing buildings and their retrofits? looking at whether or not these frameworks are including some sector-wide energy emissions reduction targets. What are the performance measures or prescriptive requirements? Are they being enforced? MRV and update mechanisms. So, really looking at how those frameworks are structured. And then, we also would look at how do they align with some of the other objectives or commitments at the international level. So with the SDGs, SDG 7, Paris Agreement, of course. And then one thing we also note is that often, policies that are related to the building sector may be introduced by different ministries within the government, and are they aligned and are they harmonized across those different sectors? Next, please. So hopefully I have enough time here to go quickly into our Cambodia case. Again, we're working with the Ministry of Environment there and UNEP as our partners, and we're collaborating on a passive cooling project. And in Cambodia, what we see is rising building energy demand, and cooling is really driving that. The nation has set some targets under its National Energy Efficiency Policy, as well as in its NDCs, on reducing energy demand in this sector, but they still have no building energy codes and no maps for appliances yet. These are in the works and are expected to be released soon, but they don't have those basic regulations in place yet. And they also have a real lack of an evidence base to inform their regulations, whether it be demonstrations or pilot projects. There's very few. We are one of those pilot demonstrations, and I'll talk about that quickly. Next, please. But first, in Cambodia, what we really started with was a review and analysis of the built environment, looking at the building typologies, and really modeling out what their performance was based on standard construction practice in the country, and provided an analysis of passive cooling. And when we say passive cooling, we're talking about passive design used in the architectural design and in the construction of the building to reduce the cooling load of those buildings. So looking at that and understanding what the potential is for regulations to improve energy efficiency, reduce energy demand and emissions. And we've developed some very practical tools, first being the compendium. So we've really surveyed the materials that are available on the market, the practices that are applicable for the Cambodian context, and pulled them together under this compendium. And we've also created an illustrated guidebook introducing the principles of passive cooling to architects, engineers, and those practitioners who want to integrate passive design into their building projects. And these will soon be available on a website that's soon to be launched. And we're excited to put that material out there to the world. Next, please.
Kim, you only have a few minutes to finish up.
Okay, great. So as I mentioned, multiple stakeholders really are important to engage. And so we also work with the Institute of Technology of Cambodia, who chairs our community of practice. And so engaging real estate developers, architects, engineers, students, faculty around the topic of passive cooling through various trainings. Next, please. And most importantly, maybe, is our pilot demonstration, where we're working with our Urban Land, our private sector partner, trialing materials and approaches to reduce cooling loads. So here you can see cool roof coatings. We've installed monitors and meters to measure the impact, the real world impact of these interventions. And by working with a private sector partner, we're really also beginning to capture a lot of information around the practicality of these applications, the cost not only of the materials but of installation, and the benefits of these approaches. Next, please. Here's just some more images of that. As I mentioned before, baseline data is critical, and so we have long-term monitoring of the baseline building as well as intervention building to really capture impact. And ultimately, what we're looking at is informing national level analysis on the potential of passive design to reduce energy demand and emissions. And this data evidence base from across our project will contribute to the development of building regulations in Cambodia. I believe that's it from my side. Thank you so much for your time.
Great, thank you, Kim. As we noted earlier, you can ask questions in the chat function, and we'll get to them. What we find, it's easier to hold the questions to the end and then try to address them. So before going on, I would like to introduce the next speaker, Janai Kamata. He's a technical expert on sustainable buildings in the UN Environment Program. He works for UNEP-led Global Alliance for Buildings and Construction and the UNEP-led Cool Coalition to advocate for energy efficient, resilient buildings. He also coordinates the International Passive Cooling Working Group to promote knowledge exchange on passive design to support enhancing policy, finance mechanisms, and design technologies. So Janai, go ahead.
Yes, thanks, Edward, and thank you everyone for joining this webinar. And I'm really happy to present our work today. And my name is Gennai Kamata. I work for the UNEP and Global Alliance for Buildings and Construction, or Global ABC, and also the Cool Coalition. But basically today, I'd like to talk about the Global ABC building roadmap, focusing on Asian context. And, so before deep diving into the building roadmap, let me briefly explain about Global ABC. So this is launched at COP21, hosted by UNEP, and we currently have 339 members, including 68 countries. And we are the global platform where all the building sectors convene and discuss and share their knowledges and best practices. And we are aiming for a common vision, which are zero emission, efficient and resilient buildings and construction sectors. And one of our flagship publication is a Buildings Global Status Report. So this is basically an annual report that captures the global status about building decarbonization and resilience. And especially these pie charts are the significant data for us, which show the energy consumption and CO2 emissions from the building sectors. So as you might know that almost 1/3 of the building emissions, energy consumption from the building sector is, and also the CO2 emissions, 1/3 of those are attributed to the building sectors. And if we look at specifically Asian context, this is again from our flagship publications. As you can see, almost 1/4 of the total energy consumption and the CO2 emissions are attributed to building sector. But the thing is, this data does not reflect about the embodied carbon from the building sector. So if we consider the embodied carbon, it's going to be 1/3 of the impact from this building sector. So what I want to say is that this is very dominant area that we need to address. And so let me talk about Global ABC Building Roadmap. So this is our important publications which are developed through the consultation with over 700 experts across the world. And why we need to involve all these like so many expert is just because that building sectors are very fragmented and involved many actors such as the developers, architects, engineers, manufacturers, and contractors, building operators, etc. So we need to listen to their voices and also try to bring them together and let them look at the common vision to achieve the building decarbonization. So this is a guideline how these players can follow to decarbonize the sector. And the thing is, this global ABC roadmap are already adopted by many countries across the world, especially in developing countries. So as you can see, this global map, the bar, which is highlighted green on the top and highlighted in blue on the bottom, this bar represents the countries which adopted global ABC roadmap. Of course, we don't force this guideline to be adopted by countries. It's just because, like the situation between countries differs from place to place, especially buildings rooted in local conditions and contexts and local material and local construction practices. So this roadmap can be tailored in considering their own country situations. And so this is the global ABC roadmap methodology. The thing is, this methodology was revamped last year. So this is a new methodologies. So which captures the important topics that we are lately discussing. So in this methodology, basically countries are encouraged to look at 4 objectives, which are zero embodied carbon, zero operational carbon, adaptation and inclusion and well-beings. And in order to achieve these objectives, 5 action areas are encouraged to look at, which are strategic priorities, spatial and urban development, existing buildings, new buildings, construction, supply chain. So this is a little bit abstract concept, but so in order to efficiently deliver these guidelines, we also prepare this step-by-step guide, which explains how to set a goal and identify key actions, and also creating a pathway towards a more efficient, local, resilient, and inclusive buildings and construction sectors. And if you look at these guidelines, we have this diagram that explains the step-by-step approach, which start from the mobilization. It means like identification of the stakeholders. And then we go to the stakeholder engagement. As I mentioned, there are many types of the stakeholders in these building sectors. So we need to involve all of them, bring them together. And also we do the baseline assessment, like to identify the country condition in the building sector. And then we need to identify the challenges and the opportunities, and then prioritization of domains of change, and then action development and setup for implementing and monitoring and evaluations. And so, yeah, we also prepare this kind of Gantt chart for the countries to understand what they need to do with what kind of timelines and by what time they need to engage with who. So this Gantt chart can give the countries more breakdown of their activities that they need to do under each step. And when it comes to the evaluations, so the important thing is that we need to look at the situation from the variety of perspective, especially for these building sectors. So basically, I would say we have the 5 areas that we need to look at. And first of all, the technical progress. So it's about the like energy efficiency of the buildings. So for example, like energy use intensity per square meter, how much it can be reduced from the conventional buildings. And also the material efficiency, which means how much we can decarbonize the building materials and also its production process. And when it comes to the policy advancement, we can evaluate that if the countries update or develop building codes. I mean, in most of the countries, they already have the building code, but not the building energy code that Kim mentioned in her slides. And normally, like those building codes include the safety measures such as structural durability and fire safety, but they never talk about the energy efficiency and the environmental aspect. So that's why they need to incorporate that aspect into the building code and regulations and standards, etc. And also, it's important to evaluate if these environmental measures would be reflected into their NDC and also national adaptation plans. Yeah, for example, passive cooling is increasing interest in many of the countries, and but this needs to be reflected in their nationally determined contribution, so that they can track and accelerate that actions. And also market transformation would be important. So normally, like building contractors or house owners want to buy the cheap materials or cheap appliances in order to reduce the construction cost. However, we need to evaluate how many these peoples are actually started to purchase the eco-friendly materials, yeah, such as passive materials or low carbon concrete or etc. So this kind of green procurement transition would be one of the criteria that we can evaluate. And also the capacity building is important. Yeah. So yeah, as Kim presented with UNESCAP, we are doing Cambodia passive cooling project where we do the design workshop and also we do some lectures to the student and design practitioners by inviting experts. And of course, it's important to look at the number of capacity buildings, but also we need to look at the quality of the contents of the building. Especially for this Cambodia project, we are not only teaching the very traditional knowledge of the sustainable architecture, but also we are teaching the student and practitioner how to use the building simulation software, which can identify the heat and airflow of the buildings. You know, like how the natural ventilation works in the buildings, how the heat coming from the sun into the building which are not visible, but if you can use the simulation software, they are easy to identify and they can investigate how they can reduce the energy consumption, thus CO2 emissions. And this kind of IT technologies are still new, and even the people from the global north are still not familiar with it. So this kind of content would be one of the evaluation point that we need to look at. And of course, climate impact about CO2 reduction and resilience measures. So I only have 3 minutes, I guess. So, but let me quickly talk about one of the example from the Bangladesh, which was just recently published. So Bangladesh has lots of issues in the building sector as described here, like high carbon emissions, high intensity materials and construction, housing deficit and coordination issues, and urban development challenges and data management. So countries are encouraged to use this global ABC methodologies. And then, as I mentioned, there are 4 objectives that countries are encouraged to look at, which are zero embodied carbon. And when we look at this embodied carbon, we should look at the priority, which is like a problem of the countries. For example, the problem is like the material decarbonization needs in bricks, 48%, and concrete, 35%. So this large ratio of the materials are not yet low carbon and not green. So in order to reduce this carbon intensity, what they need to target is that, so they created a target like 30% reduction by 2030 and 60% reduction by 2040 from the 2020 levels. So all these like priority and target needs to be discussed under these 4 objectives, and the same can be applicable to other objectives as well. And also, as I mentioned, in order to achieve these 4 objectives, countries are encouraged to look at what they need to do, like an action point. And we have 5 action points that they need to look at. So, for example, strategic priorities, they are encouraged to, they actually identified what they need, which are the establishing the data center like a depository. And also, if you look at the urban development issues, they have they don't have enough zoning code and land use regulations, so they need to look at that. And also existing buildings, so there are many uncontrolled recycling market or regulated or individuals who are collecting building materials and selling it and without quality guarantee. So that is also the problem. And the new buildings, and we need to introduce highly insulated window systems and also the materials, and that is actions that they need to take. And also when it comes to the construction supply chains, it's important to look at low carbon materials and its production process, of course. And finally, let me introduce these 2 references from the global ABC. So if you are from Asia, please look at these 2 critical publications from our side. So the one is the roadmap that focuses on Asian context, and the other one is again the one for the ASEAN regions. So thank you very much for listening, and over to Edward.
Very good. No, excellent. Thank you. Fascinating studies. Hopefully we'll have some time at the end to discuss some of this. Again, for those on participating in the webinar, please send your questions for any of the speakers in the chat function, and we'll try to get to them. Meanwhile, we'll go to our 3rd presenter, and that's Tien. He is in I'm always thinking of sustainability, solution development at Coral Life, and which pioneers sustainable building solutions. And his work involves steering the strategic vision and operational execution of his company's mission to really revolutionize energy efficiency in building usage. And he has a deep commitment to sustainability, understanding the design of these buildings so they can help lead the market in sustainable architecture and building practices. So I'll hand it over to Tin, and you have about 15 minutes as well.
Thank you, Edward. It is an honor to be here, and it is my pleasure to be sharing about what we do at Coral Life. Okay. And is everyone seeing my screen? Yes. At Coral Life, we are pioneer in the end-to-end measurable high performance building energy solution. That means we are an system integrator that deliver ROI over 70% energy saving while ensuring wellness, air quality, as well as long-term value. And it is important to share where we come from. With our real estate development experiences here in Thailand, on the right of this page is a 53-floor tower completed over 10 years ago. This was a building that was used as a study case for the formulation of the Thailand Building Energy Code at that time. Our founder, James Doan, has always been committed toward providing understanding on how to build better and how to ensure better sustainability in built environment. And so at the time, the building I mentioned was part of the first lot of study in the formulation of the Building Energy Code here in Thailand. And 10 years on, we are currently creating a platform to bring together like-minded policymakers, decision makers, stakeholders in equipping a mentality of tangible ESG solutions, tangible sustainabilities, step-by-steps. And it goes to show that what we have been researching and doing in real estate, scientific and real practical solutions has become an offer of a strong, measurable solution at this point. A quick look at what we do at Coral Life. Right here is an example of a world-class company called Zending from Taiwan. We have started with offering our energy solutions as well as productions of the building to the company. They are one of the largest company doing PCB boards and electronics. So the result of the conventional study, they started off with an EUI of 209. As a result, after with our Coral Life implementation, the building would be more efficient with the EUI in energy use intensity drop from 209 to 99. And then with digital transformation to the building, it would drop to 82. Basically, an efficiency from 209 drop to 82 would be over 60% dropped in energy usage from the baseline. And that's part one on energy efficiency. Part two is the ability to offer, utilize wellness grade indoor air quality, meaning that it is clean, it is comfortable, and it is livable with low carbon dioxide, no PM 2.5, no VOCs. adequate, correct humidity and temperature. And we also data manage buildings for their long-term usage. So this has a lot to do with the evaluations and the process improvement of how to use building and manage building better, preventative maintenance on the building in the long run. This is a result of the chairman of the company who, in our understanding and knowing of him, that he's got a great sense of responsibility toward social governance, and that he resonates a lot with our ideology. The chairman and the company and their top management are very receptive toward innovative solutions. And so when they got to know about what we can do from Coral Life, he immediately decided to improve on their energy policy. And a company that trades globally with some of the largest companies in the world, when they see a solution like this, then they're very quick to realize that this is a strong solution. And here you're looking at a few other buildings as an example that are utilizing our Coral Total solution. All of them have energy savings 60, 70, 80%. And they breathe wellness air, and these are all measurable, tangible ESG solutions. All of our clients are forward-looking, and they look toward measuring and also having real impact in their solutions. And for us, we are a company that is not only product driven, but also focus on smart building solution, as well as the ability to test and innovate. So Coral Life is in essence a combination of all three. As a product-driven company, as a smart building solutions company, and a technology creation company. We go to market by working with our clients with some of the newest business model here which is what we call energy as a service. Benefits to owners is that there are no investment cost initially for their capital expenditure, and that old buildings or new buildings are able to earn energy savings after contract ends of repayment for the capital expenditure. But the tangible ESG delivery is realized right away, and that there is wellness grade indoor air quality for occupants and customers. The principle is important. We start with the baseline of 100%, and we do all kinds of implementation, whether it is on building techniques, building materials, mechanics, digitalizations of the buildings. We drop the energy demand of the building from 100 to 30 or less. And this is solely basically on the demand energy part of the building. Then and only then we go on to the energy supply part. And together both, they can be combined into a net zero solution. We talked about measurability. We talked about evaluation. The very first thing we do is benchmarking the base and then the target. And with this, we use EUI, which is the kilowatt hour per square meter per year. For regular offices in Thailand, they come up at about 300 kilowatt hour per square meter per year on average. And some of the high performing buildings in the world, in the US, France, Singapore, they're well below 100 on their EUI index. Our building here in Bangkok is at 68. Now, the key importance for reaching 68 is that this is the number reached without solar generations. It is a number solely on how efficient a building is using energy. Second is on the indoor air quality. And we utilize mechanics that are able to monitor as well as provide data to automate air quality. And this is also the second part, that after we build a building with good EUI, then we also have mechanics that usually is quite inefficient or just adequate. But now we have a revolution of how to manage air quality in buildings better. And in terms of IAQ, it is PM 2.5 to be 0. It's VOC to be low. It is carbon dioxide below 1,000 ppm, which is introduced by the WHO as under 1,000 being healthy. Relative humidity, if we are able to control relative humidity between 40 and 60%, and then it would suppress mold and bacteria growth, and that would thereby ensuring quality indoor air. And then obviously on temperature control. All of this 5 is how we evaluate and control air quality indoor. Now, as a test to our clients' building as well as our office, this is a company that would monitor air quality. The result is that total bacteria count in our space is 53 colony forming unit per cubic meter, and the standard is to be below 500, yet we're only 53. On total fungi count, the standard should be below 500, we're 7. Now, how are these numbers as opposed to a WHO standard? They would fall within a hospital operation clean room air in all of our space. That bacteria count would be below 100, that fungi count in tropical space would be below 10, and this number satisfy the requirement. The idea of solving biological issues, the idea of solving allergies, the idea of eliminating sickness should not only happen in the hospital, that it should be moved to private spaces and also public spaces. Here is a snapshot of our headquarters here in Sukhumvit 39 in Bangkok, Thailand. A 3,000 square meter cooling space on 5 floors. Conventional design would require 500,000 baht a month of electricity bill for the whole building, but our bills here is 70,000. It's an 86% drop from the conventional baseline, the next building of similar size and typography. And that's a quick snapshot of our bills. It's really 70,000. It's $2,000 a month. That's it for the whole place. Further on the energy generation part, we currently do not yet have energy generations in our building, but we have calculated that based on how efficient we are as a building, and with 900 square meter of roof space on top, we would in the end be able to have a surplus of 48,000 kilowatt hour per year. That would be a revenue of over 130,000 baht per year on selling back to the grid at business rate price. Imagine every building in Thailand doing this. Examples of many of the projects that I understand we have a few minutes left. What I'm saying is all of these buildings have all utilized ultra energy efficiency as well as hospital grade, wellness grade indoor air, whether they're government buildings or offices or schools, shopping malls, hospitals. The key important is to deliver them with high return on investment rate. The idea of convincing businesses to adopt is to make sense in terms of the monetary calculation, and then to ensure it with high quality indoor living grade. It would help to shift this thinking from value, from just cost-based thinking more into ROI-based adoption, and this is really key. An example of a building that we have renovated, the energy cost has dropped 80% and is a winner of the Thailand and ASEAN Energy Award last year on retrofit cases on energy efficiency. To summarize very quickly on the way we evaluate buildings, on the left of the screen, we tracked monthly and annual utility bills pre and post retrofit, and this would also include new construction as well to calculate actual saving from baseline. Buildings are benchmarked using EUI to standardize performance comparison. And again, as you've seen earlier, IAQ sensor monitor indoor air matrix and adjust to real-time changes. So if there are suddenly a lot of people coming into the room, carbon dioxide rises, temperature rises, there will be an adjustment of how our HVAC system works. Process evaluation is also very important. We conduct interviews and feedback sessions with building owners and users on comfort and air quality, as Kimberly asked me to share a little bit more on this. Living comfortably with cost effectiveness and maintenance experience and satisfaction is very, very important. We improve end user education on system usage to maximize energy savings. We optimize tuning of HVAC systems to at commissionings and also later based on post-occupancy feedback. In-house data analytics, I have 2 more slides left. In-house analytics, for example, this is a snapshot of our real-time monitoring of buildings in terms of energy, in terms of usage. It can be used to do predictive maintenance, as well as our current Coral chatbot that would automatically provide whatever information is needed with whatever perimeter that is measurable in all of our clients' building. This is currently being deployed in some of our newer projects. And as an example, we're able to help our client drop their energy usage even further after the physicality of the building is delivered. And real-time monitoring, for example. And as a last slide, we see the market landscape of Southeast Asia building construction market size is estimated to grow 7% per year to over $735 billion. It's a huge market, and that there are opportunities for all kinds of investment, whether it is on energy saving tech, whether it is cooling or energy as a service, green building product, district cooling, all of that sees an upward trend. And so both push and pull factor should be present to drive the market. It is important that energy efficiency is no longer optional, that it is a baseline for smart, healthy, future-proof buildings. And at Coral Life, we define design for performance, affordability, and wellness, and that as an end node, transformation is happening, and let's make measurable, inclusive, and then these works irreversible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very good presentation. All 3 were excellent. We do have some questions in the chat function. I'll start with the first one. Quick question to Janai regarding the dimensions for evaluating progress. When would you say is the right time to conduct evaluations to assess progress in buildings? This could probably be true for all 3 speakers, but for example, in projects that include policy advisory components for enforcing building codes, what would be the appropriate timing for evaluations after the project's exit to measure the impact of the interventions? So, Janai.
So yeah, thank you very much for the question. So I think there are 2 stages for the evaluation when it comes to the building sector. So we are as I mentioned, we are supporting the countries to integrate energy efficiency into their building codes or regulations. And once the countries adopted that energy efficient regulations and code, it still takes some time for the design practitioners to follow the code. Yeah, it might be 1 year after the building code is enforced. Because many architects need to follow the new regulations and started to modify their drawings so that they can get the building permit. So so this building permit stage is one of the important stage that you can evaluate the progress. So you can look at the design drawings to make sure if the energy efficient measures are incorporated into their drawings, such as highly insulated window systems. And also, once they get the building permit, construction would start. And this construction will normally take 1 or 2 years, depending on the size of the buildings. But basically, after 1 or 2 years, once buildings are completed, there is another stage that evaluators can come in to actually evaluate the as-built drawings. That means the buildings that summarize all the completed element of the buildings. So this is again where you can actually inspect that if this, for example, highly insulated building windows are actually adopted in their actual buildings. Maybe sometimes due to the cost problems or like capacity of the manufacturers or capacity of contractors, they cannot install the eco windows that they specify in the first place in the building permit. So they need to check if it's really adopted or not. So basically, these two stages before construction and after construction would be the good timing. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
A question for Ken. Does an energy savings or reduction of 70% through efficiency affect the comfort level of the occupants to any level?
Yes, it does. And on a very strong level, the effect is that it's a drop in 70% energy reduction, but we have improved in ensuring perfect wellness grade air quality. And when we talked about monitoring and using data to automate the way air is supplied, that's ensuring on the IAQ level. Now, the total comfort, we would call it an indoor environmental quality, and that the buildings that are built this way are less likely to burn down in a fire, less likely to crack in an earthquake, more likely to be acoustically sound, and obviously less bacteria and less viruses. These, if anything, it has improved indoor living quality.
Okay, thanks. There, in several of the talks, there are many innovative materials being created. People are wondering about the long-term effects, the durability and performance. How is that being evaluated? So often, we do an evaluation. Is there another evaluation down the line? For energy savings, we call that the persistence. How long do these energy savings last? Or do they go back to what was before? And in this case, they're looking at durability of the materials. And is that being evaluated? Yeah.
Yes, when we look at a life cycle of a building, it's key importance in integrating materials into our so-called product list, that they should be durable throughout the lifetime. If anyone is in a real estate construction business, you would know that usual tapes that you use to seal the space between duct work and wall work, they don't last more than 11 years. But then in selecting buildings that are sensitive toward the longevity return of a building on a strong ROI, there's a reason why we would use other materials, a different kind of tape that would last 50 years, for example. How much does a tape cost anyway? But how much can it affect airtightness of a building? And as Janai also mentioned earlier, how a building is designed based on how buildings materials will perform, the durability will affect the way it performs long run. One is building technique, another is building material selection,
Right.
whether it's glass, whether it's frame, whether it is a sealant of different types. How do we ensure that it lasts just as long as your business?
Yep, very good. Well, I could ask lots of questions, but I think we're really nearing the end of this webinar. And I'd like to again thank all three presenters. It's been for me very special to see what's actually going on in the ground rather than hypothetically what's going on. So it'll be interesting to follow each of the different activities, and hopefully it'll help transform the market. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Nazir to have some final comments. Nazir?
Thanks, Ed. Thanks, everyone. Special thanks to our speakers, for the very insightful sessions and discussions. It was very enlightening. We learned a lot, and thanks to our audience for being part of this webinar. I would just like to share that you can keep in touch with us through our social media pages. We are very active on LinkedIn, to some extent on X or Twitter as well. You can check all the previous webinars and sessions from the conferences on our YouTube channel. They're also available on our website, and also we will be sharing the discussion notes and slides and recording of this webinar as well. Thanks again. Hopefully we will bring you a new webinar by end of this month, or in the first week of May. We will be sharing the details again through our website and social media pages. Thanks everyone again. Wish you all good day, good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you very
for the
much.
opportunity.